Hi, my name is Aaron McManus, and you're listening to the Battle Ready Podcast. I'm here with my sister, Mariah McManus Goss.
Hi, I'm Mariah McManus Goss, and you're listening to the Battle Ready Podcast.
You look beautiful.
Thank you.
You look so good.
Oh,
Didn't you just have a child?
yes. How does she do it?
How does she do it? Is this the mother glow? The motherly glow?
Yes. Sure.
You look amazing.
Thank you.
You do look amazing.
One more time.
You look amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So I want to talk about a few things, and we'll just see where it goes. Is that okay? This is very much how I like to do things. This is very much
not
the way
I like
you
to
function.
do things.
So here we go. A couple different random titles for this episode might be homeschooled.
Okay.
It might be how to be a better brother.
Okay.
It might be
How?
the first time Mariah ever said sorry.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Sorry, it's dark. Let's stop there. We start over.
Don't start over.
Okay, no, we're going for this. We're going for this. It's really moody in here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I mean, we're alone with a candle.
There is a candle. I never noticed that before.
There's literally no one in here.
It smells good. Okay, so a couple things we want to talk about today. You are a queen.
Oh, thank you. So far, this is just compliments.
So I have to tell.
Which is usually the foundation for something else.
No, it really isn't. I want to pick your brain because I think you're our most requested person on this podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be my mother that joined us today.
It's
and then
true.
she decided to go on a road trip.
She loves road trips.
She does. And so I woke up to a text that said, hey, sorry, I know we said we were doing Battle Ready, but I decided to go on a road trip.
So I am the second choice. Honored.
You were busy,
Honored to be the second choice.
but you were the second child.
I am just a second in general.
That's not
good.
even true.
I'm just
They
kidding.
love you more than me, and you know it.
I mean, can
It's-
you blame them?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, can we talk about, one, how it was to grow up together? Should we
Okay.
go into it without going into too much detail?
Well, isn't that what this podcast is anyways?
It really is, but
should be called too much detail.
Should we too much detail? Should we go into a few other things before we go into that?
Sure.
How have you watched the Olympics?
I have.
What's your favorite event?
I mean, right now, gymnastics.
Gymnastics?
There's a lot of drama.
Men's or women's?
Well, women's.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
You
you're like,
don't?
ooh. Oh.
I mean, for that, we go to swimming.
For that, we go to swimming.
For the ooze.
For the ooze. Do you just tell Jake, does Jake like the Olympics too? You're married to a man named Jake.
Yes, he loves the Olympics. It's all we watch 24/7. The last week in the middle of the night, I'll wake up and he's watching 3 a.m. because it's live.
Oh.
The main events are live around then.
Okay.
And so last night he watched Simone live in the middle of the night.
Did she do okay?
She did good. She did great.
Did she medal?
Yes,
Okay. Did she win?
she medaled.
No, I'm saying, but did she get gold or no?
No, she got bronze.
Oh, I mean, but
But that's huge because she's
huge. Yeah,
been
yeah.
dealing with all this stuff and whatever. So
how do you feel about that?
what do you mean? How do I feel about that?
Because I mean, technically, this is a mental health podcast. That's the subgenre.
It is?
Well, it was faith and spirituality, but it was faith and spirituality. But I didn't like that we were
Okay.
competing with
Other people.
other people.
Okay.
So I put in mental health because I was like, maybe this could help somebody,
Well, that's good.
and I wanted to be more, I guess, open
Right.
to not just faith people.
I mean, I think what she's going through is crazy. I didn't totally understand it at first because it's an actual thing that gymnasts go through called the twisties.
The twisties, is this
Yeah.
the Sunday Scaries?
I mean, maybe. But
know
it's
what the
when
Sundays-
you're in the air and you're twisting, you can't figure out which way's up and which way's down. So you don't
That
know if you're going
sounds
to
like
land
my
on your
life
neck.
sometimes.
Okay.
Keep
You
going.
got the
Sorry.
twisties.
Go. That's the
Um,
name of this episode, the twisties.
So that's crazy. I can't imagine. I mean, I can't even do a somersault, so I can't begin to understand
Sometimes I can't even stand up without getting lightheaded. So wait, you're saying that was what she ended up kind of coming out and talking about, that she had the twisties.
She can't twist without. So like if you look at her vault, the last thing that she did before she removed herself, she looks up and you realize she has no idea while she's twisting where she is.
Oh,
you can literally see it in her eyes.
Thank goodness we didn't do a podcast on this 2 weeks ago or whenever this came out, because she didn't really talk about it. She didn't really
say. It seemed more like a mental health thing, like maybe just taking a break, or like with all the stuff that she went through, it was like maybe it was just all that and like PTSD or whatever. But it was actually this.
It kind of seemed like there was like two different things, because she had like maybe wrapped up a leg or like one of her ankles or something, and it was like, oh, maybe she like got hurt.
Yeah.
But then it was like maybe she's soft. Mm-hmm. And then she was like, no, it's mental health. And then it was like, well, were you just getting rocked?
Yeah.
But it makes sense, because I did watch the clip of her spinning.
You literally, she opens her eyes. Yeah.
She's like, doesn't know where she is.
No. And so a lot of the thing with that is like you can land on your neck.
I mean.
And break your neck because you don't know which way is up or which way is down. So on the beam, you don't really have to twist. Whoops.
Which one's the beam?
The beam is like, I don't know how else to explain it.
Is the beam the one?
It's a beam.
Austin did this. This.
It's the like.
It's the
platform thing, thin one that you do like flips on.
Okay.
I guess you're doing
But
flips
aren't you having to do spins on that too?
Not twists.
So not flipping and spinning.
You can flip. It's just like when you're like twisting in the air.
You know which one gets me? Like gymnastics, I could live without. I'm good. Not that I don't appreciate it, and not that I don't.
I'm not taking any personal offense to this.
But the on the floor mat, to me, least favorite thing in all the Olympics.
Really? That's my favorite one.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I just feel the commentators are so pretentious. Well, that wasn't in his routine. Well, how about is it?
Yeah.
To submit all your twisties?
Okay, listen. Let me just tell you. Let me tell all these people something.
Tell them something about the Olympics.
No, I'm not telling them something about the Olympics. I'm going to tell them something about you.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare go there.
Aaron,
if you go
Aaron
there,
pretends.
No. I'm taking the mics. This episode's over. Don't you dare.
What do you mean? Now I have to.
Protect me.
I have to give the people what they want.
Protect me.
The reason
No,
Aaron is pretending like he doesn't understand
girls that
anything.
like me listen to this podcast.
Who?
I don't know. Someday a girl will like me and listen to this podcast.
Aaron used to do gymnastics.
I had no choice.
Yes, you did.
You
were like level, you were like good. You went for years.
Not years, dude. We went for one summer.
Well, then how'd you get so good?
I don't know.
No, we didn't go for one summer. No, that was when we went to Stockton for the summer. That was one time.
No, that's Stockton. Tell them how we were raised.
And then I remember we used to pick you up at this one.
Don't do this to me.
In La Mirada,
remember? How old was I?
I think like a teenager.
No, I was not, girl. I was like 10.
Okay.
We had moved to that house. Don't you wink at me. I wasn't out there doing the twisties.
Okay, anyways. So that's the secret. That's why you don't like gymnastics so much. But it could have been you up there.
It could have been.
That's all I'm saying.
No, you know what my things were? My things were, I did the rings.
You did? Oh my gosh, those are so hard.
And I was kind of good at it.
Oh.
For being young, I was kind of good at it.
That's
crazy. I could do like the flips and stuff.
Cool.
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I really don't want to talk about this anymore. Okay, can we talk about it? Can we talk about you?
Sure.
What sports did you play?
Basketball.
Can we talk about this, or do you want to not talk about? We can
talk about whatever.
Your Shaquille O'Neal stage.
I was very tall.
How tall were you in like elementary school?
I think I hit my peak at 3rd grade.
So you were as tall as you are now in 3rd grade?
Or 4th grade, yeah.
Goodness. And I was about as tall as Juno.
Yeah, I was taller than you.
Yeah, in the 3rd grade.
And you're 4 years older than me.
Yeah. And so I was in 7th grade and you were still taller than me. Which is actually insane. But you dunked on a few kids a couple times.
I played basketball. I was the 2nd tallest person in the entire YMCA league.
Crazy.
I guess it was like all YMCAs in like Southern California, right?
It was interesting because our parents like put us, it was YMCA, it was AYSO for soccer. And then there was like a couple other leagues. But I I remember our parents put us in like the YMCA in the suburbs, and then they refused to put me in anything that had white kids in it.
But you played hockey.
That was the last sport. Remember, all up until high school, they let me do like local sports. And then once I was in high school, he was like, I can't do the white parents anymore.
But AYSO wasn't white.
AYSO was entirely white.
Oh, really?
They put me in the hood league in East LA.
Come on.
Yeah.
You were pretty good at soccer.
I was pretty good at soccer.
That Latin blood.
The Latin blood. We had a kid with no arm play with us.
That's cool.
He rocked people.
That's crazy.
Phenomenal. He was so good. And then he always had a fight. There was always a fight. But he only got one arm, so he was at a disadvantage.
We can't talk about this.
Yes, you can.
No, we can't talk about
this.
this.
Yes, you can. No, but this is why, because he was so good. Remember Nathaniel?
Yeah.
So it was him and Nathaniel were playing offense. They would be like our main strikers. And then I played defense with another kid. But then without a doubt, there was a fight no matter what. And the one kid with one arm, obviously disadvantage. I mean, he could kick people, but he swim with his. And then we'd get in a fight with the suburb leagues every game.
You liked to fight when you were in high school?
When I was younger, yeah. Well, I didn't like to fight. I just was bullied a lot. So I kind of had to fight.
This is turning into something else. Are we going to talk about being bullied?
We
could go there.
We're talking about being bullied. We were both bullied pretty heavily, though.
Cheers.
Cheers. Water and coffee. Can we talk about a couple of things? You got married 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us the story of how you and Jake met?
I don't think, is that interesting?
It's so interesting. If people think The Bachelor's interesting, they're going to think this is interesting.
Well, that's not encouraging.
Give us the meet cute, the moment you met.
Oh, yeah. Well, I saw him while I was singing because he had this like dirty mustache. And I was like, oh, who's that guy?
Oh.
But also like, oh, who's that guy?
Who's that guy? Was he front row or was he like row 3 or where was he at?
He was the first row of the second section on the right.
Oh, you remember. You pretended like you didn't know.
Of course I remember. I remember that.
You remember that?
He wore a black cutoff. Who wears that to church?
Who wears the mustache to church?
That is really crazy. And then he came the next night to a thing we used to have called Welcome to Mosaic. And he came up and hugged me.
He hugged you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I was like, okay. My arms are open.
Oh. But talk to me about, when was that? Like September?
December.
November? No. December or November?
Sometime.
Sometimes it's hard to tell time in LA because they all look the same.
They're all.
And then it gets cold for like 2 months.
I think it was cold.
So he comes to Welcome to Mosaic, and then I remember because I was there. I was there, and one of our guys was like, "That guy likes Mariah."
Right.
And I was like, "Thank God."
Why?
Because
I had to, yeah.
Because you had dated someone that I knew, and I wasn't a fan. Well, actually, me and him are cool now. But at the time, we were all young.
You are?
Yeah, he texts me all the time and apologizes.
Oh. Why does he text you all the time
for
and
dating
apologize?
you behind my back? It's all good. We all have things. But at the time, whatever. It is what it is. So when I had heard there was a guy, I was like, ooh, interesting. And then mustache guy was like, oh.
Yeah, you and Dad didn't like him.
No, we did not like him. We were protected.
You didn't like my decisions.
We were protected, and I was barely a Christian.
That's true.
Barely.
What do you mean barely?
Like they should have like baptized me, but like drowned me and brought me back to life. I needed a spiritual and physical fix. Okay.
That wasn't that long ago.
7 years ago. I've been here for 7 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy, right? 7 years.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. Got fired for a little bit, but then came back.
A little break.
Okay, so you met him. And then I remember seeing him and I was like, oh, interesting. And then I think we were in the same little group at Welcome to Mosaic. Got to know him a little bit. Kindest human ever.
Yeah.
And then me and Jake, this is my story now. Me and Jake.
You and Jake.
How did he ask you out? Did he ask you out? Because I remember Christmas, which we always did the Christmas Eve thing.
Yes.
You were stressing.
That was New Year's.
New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
You were stressing.
Yeah.
Because he like wasn't texting you back. He went home to Arkansas.
No, well, Tess, what did he text me? He texted me on New Year's like, what are you doing tonight? And I was like, this is our moment. Like New Year's. Like every girl's like New Year's Eve. Like really like this is going to be the moment. And then I texted him like, oh, we're just, available but busy.
The moment to what?
What?
What? What? What? You mean the moment to kiss your man?
On
face,
New Year's.
with the mustache.
I mean, okay. So, and then he never texted me back. So, or no, I said, like, I was busy, but available, like, oh, I'm hanging with my friends. We're just chilling, like, whatever. Like, I don't know where the night's, whatever.
I don't know where the night's going to go. We're going to
the club. I was with you.
Hit the club.
I was with you.
Was that the night you were
in Erica Dez's 400 square foot apartment?
Was that, we all fell
with
asleep
their
before
demon dog.
Dude. Was that the night that that you were projectile vomiting?
No, that was the next year.
That was the next year.
And the year after that.
So what a lot of people don't know is that
where are we going with this? Because now
we're just learning about Mariah. We're learning about Mariah, and then we're gonna get into some other stuff. But we have to lay a foundation of who you are and like things that we need to know. So you met Jake. You had New Year's Eve.
These are just random.
New Year's Eve didn't
facts.
happen. Stop it. Just go with it.
Wait, but he responded, "Oh, have a great night." That was his response.
Was he in LA or Arkansas?
He was in LA.
So he was being
Jake. He didn't know.
He didn't know. Have you asked him about it?
He's just that way.
Have you asked him about it since?
Yeah, he just didn't.
So how quickly from that moment, from New Year's Eve, the fail on New Year's Eve. So do you remind him every New Year's Eve, like, you don't deserve this?
No.
You don't deserve this.
No. He's perfect.
So whatever. You guys have stuff. Do you have stuff?
Well, yeah, we're married.
Okay. From that moment on, how long did it take for you guys to like start dating?
Couple weeks.
Couple weeks?
Yeah.
So then I had a coffee with Jake that I don't know if you knew about. Maybe you knew about, but he was like, "Hey, Broheem," that's what he calls me. I don't know where he got that.
You're in his phone as Broheem.
Broheem. And I've only had 2 coffees with Jake ever.
Uh-huh.
The first one was before he asked you to go on a date with him. I think he had already asked you. He was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go on a date with sister." I was like, "I'm pretty sure you're probably already dating my sister." And he's like, "Oh, do you have your blessing?" And I was like, "Blessed." Blessings. And then the second one was when he was gonna ask you to marry him.
Mm-hmm.
How long after from when you guys started dating till when you got engaged? How long was that?
9 months.
9 months. So from like January to
October.
So then he like brought the ring to coffee and he shows me. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's gonna lose that. You know that, right?"
Because it's like a family heirloom.
Family heirloom. He's like, "It's been passed down. I went and got it from my mom, from my grandmother, and that's gonna be Mariah's." And I was like, "Okay, so I have a guy. He can replicate it, and you can get it insured. And so she loses it, you won't be sad." But and then he was like, "No, it's gonna be fine." Have you lost it?
No, I have it, but I need to get it insured. Thank you for reminding me.
You haven't gone? Okay, for sure you need to get insured. So that was the second coffee, and then we never had coffee ever again. Now we have family coffee. We hang out, but that was really it. Tell
us about the girl you like
right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right after this commercial break. Okay, so then, how did you go from dating to get? Like, when he asked you to get married, did you know it was going to happen?
No.
You didn't have like a dream or anything?
Oh, I did have a dream.
Okay.
I had a dream where he asked me and when he asked me.
Was it exactly spot on?
Yes.
No. Actually?
Yes. And I told Tess because Tess stopped talking to me for like a month because she couldn't keep a secret. So she decided that not being my friend was easier than keeping a secret.
I remember this.
What are you saying no about? I cried to Jake for days about it because I was like, I have no friends. Everyone is avoiding me. No one will talk to me.
You guys have a funny relationship, you two. And we're not going to talk about that on this podcast right now. But maybe we'll bring her in. Maybe,
yeah, some people just need to learn how to keep a secret and not have to abandon friendship, year-long friendship.
It's honestly a shocker that I didn't tell you because we lived on the same floor.
We did live across the street from each other.
No, across the hall from each other.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in front of the elevator and you lived like down the hall at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And so my door was always unlocked and I'd wake up and there'd be like someone watching TV on my couch and be like, okay.
Well, Joy would scare me in the apartment and then I would be so mad at her that I'd come and stay
in her
apartment.
Yeah. And then I'd walk out and you see Jake like sitting on the floor in front of your door and be like, "Do you want me to like let you in?"
That was really sad.
And he'd be like, "No, she's sleeping."
That's so nice. He's so nice.
He's so nice. He's so nice. So
Okay, let's go. What are we talking about?
teach us something about marriage. I'm not married. Teach me something.
I don't know anything about marriage.
I've learned that I shouldn't talk about dating on this podcast. About my own
Why?
life.
But you talk about dating every time.
No, I talked about it one time, and then the girl I liked got mad at me and ended things. And then I talked about it again, and then everyone just thought I was sad boy. And so
Were you sad boy?
For like, yeah.
Okay. So everyone was right.
So everyone was right. But now I think I'm steady now.
Okay.
I'm steady now.
Well, what are you looking for?
So I'm steady now. So there's a lot of people out there that want to know about how do you get married? So you've been married for 5 years. You've been married for 5 years. This podcast is slower than normal. You're slowing it down.
How am I slowing it down? I'm trying to understand where you're going with this.
I just want to talk
This
about.
is Indiana Jones of subject matter.
No, we're gonna get into this part because we're 21 minutes in and we're gonna get into this part. Give us some relationship advice.
I mean, about what? Marriage?
No, all of it.
All of it.
How did you go from dating the wrong person to the right person? Because not even that person's bad, but like everyone goes from that point from like when you make a decision and you go, now I'm dating the right person.
Right. I think every person I dated got better.
I actually liked a lot of the people that you dated. I wasn't a good person. So I was always like protective, angry guy.
They weren't always good people either.
Well,
but I think every time they just got better. So I didn't go back to the same problem.
I don't ever understand why exes hate exes.
You don't understand?
No, because like there's always a season where you're like, okay, I'm not like a fan.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm always just like, no.
I mean, I'm
want them to
not
be
friends and don't like any of my exes personally.
Okay.
So I'm not the right person to ask. But I think there's a way to do it.
Okay.
I've dated people that have ended well and now we're still friends. You know, like
Right.
I think, you know, casually or been, you know, on a date. That I would say is really easy. And most people, especially in church, think that it's impossible to date someone and still be friends with them.
Like people in church, like they date them and then they're like, I can't go to the same church anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like I've done that plenty of times. Like there was a season where I went on a lot of dates and, you know, one of those seasons was
Thank God I was in New York.
when I met Jake, you know, was like dating other people. You were not
I was here.
in New York.
I just didn't know. Don't ask, don't tell.
No, I mean, I wasn't like,
You weren't hoeing.
I wasn't hoeing.
But you were going.
Yeah, I was going on dates.
You were going on dates.
But yeah, every single person got better. I just didn't go back to the same problem. I didn't look for the person with the same problem. I think a lot of times people just gravitate towards the same unhealth.
Are you looking at me while you're saying that?
Well, I'm talking to you, but I also am looking at you.
Do you think, okay, wait. Talk to me about that. Because I think one thing in like close circles, you have different groups of friends. Mm-hmm. But some people only have people like that are just in church. Yeah. And then they date people in their circle and then they feel incredibly awkward afterwards, or they don't date the people in that circle. That's something I hear. Hey, no one asked me out on dates.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I think they do. You say no.
Yes. And I know for a fact, and I've seen it before, there's someone in that room that has also said no a million times to everyone, but is married now. Brooke Odom.
I about crashed my car when Brooke said she wanted to date Andy.
I know. But it's a thing. There was like a time where you were like, no one asks me out. And I was like, that's because you've said no so many times. And also your vibe is no.
Brooke's vibe. But this is my thing. There's so much more satisfaction when you get the girl that is the no girl versus the yes girl.
Yeah.
Because whenever she like, you know, I don't know.
I mean, there's a difference between like a yes girl who's actually like open to love and marriage.
Yeah.
And then there's like the yes girl who's got to like start saying no.
So I'm going to ask for my friends. When a guy asks a girl, this is so good. We figured it out. This is dating. This is on dating.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask all the questions that my friends have.
Your friends.
My friend. And I'm going to sneak a couple of the ones that I have in there too. So when a guy asks a girl, like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, what are you passionate about? What do you want to do with your life? And they say, I just want to be a mom and a wife and a mom.
Okay, what's the question?
How nervous should I be when that is said? Because like I've been talking about this with this is not a me thing. I'm like, hey, I'm 33.
Right.
I like
you need someone who wants to be a wife and a mom.
Yeah, at some point in the next 3 to 5 years, I've got like at some point I'm just gonna like start donating. I'm just gonna pick someone, sign a contract. Like, would you like to have children with me? Yes, thank you.
Okay, keep going.
People are like, well, they're not biblical.
I don't want to know that.
What are you talking about? No, what? I told Dad, I'm like, I'm not running. Men can have kids for so much longer.
For sure.
But like, I don't want to be 40 years old.
Well, yeah, you won't be.
No, well, I might be like 39. At this rate,
you won't be unless you become open to it. But that's another personal conversation we can have later. What do
a question, right? Because like
wife and mother thing.
Yeah, because I don't think it's a bad. Like I tell my friends, I'm like, that's a good thing because ultimately you do want a wife and you want to have kids, right? So those are all good things. But when it's the only thing that is said, it makes a lot of guys nervous. Right. How do you feel about that?
I don't know personally because those aren't my like only life goals, you know. But I would say,
what are some of your life goals?
But let me answer the question. What I would say is that some people like say that they want to do something. Like I never thought I knew I wanted to be a mom, but being a wife and a mother was not my like end all be all.
But and it wasn't being really a wife and a mother.
Yes. And I love being a mom way more than I thought I would love it. You know, and so I think that when you enter into motherhood, the idea of that becomes a lot different. You know, and on either spectrum, like some people don't like it as much as they thought, and it becomes, you know, more of a thing that you have to learn to love. And some people, like I loved it a lot more than I ever expected to love it. Yeah. And so I wouldn't have said that when I was dating because I never knew that I would actually love it as much, you know, and then it becomes harder to look at all those other goals that I had and realize like, oh, by doing those things, sometimes it means that I have to leave this like person, this little tiny person that I love.
Like when you work.
Yeah.
And how long ago did you have Gina? 2 months? Mm-hmm. And you're already back at work. Mm-hmm. Started a couple days ago. A week ago?
A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but yeah. It's hard to tell with COVID because you pop in for a couple of days and you work from home. Yeah. Okay. But
so I don't know.
Some people would think you're being a bad mom for not being around your kid.
Yeah, some people would think that.
And some people would think you're being an awesome mom because now that kid won't be dependent on you. And she's gonna
I think it's just, I mean, as far as dating goes, I would say that's okay for someone to say that, you know. I think it's more of a reflection of your insecurity, realizing that somebody wants to commit to something like that.
No. It's not, it actually hasn't me. It has nothing to do with me.
No.
This is actually
your friend.
No. Do you want me to say his name? I can say his name. No. But he also listens to this podcast. He knows. He's feeling.
Wait, say his name. I think that's more on him, you know, like, because
like I'm 27, like I want to have kids, but I'm in career focus right now. I want to start dating someone, maybe have kids in a few years.
Yeah, I don't think that person is saying like, I want to marry you tomorrow and I want to have kids on Thursday. Like, I think that person's saying like, this is my goal in life. And I think women sometimes are just more in tune with that and they can see farther down the road when men sometimes like that are just like, I want to live a long life, which those are the details. You just work that out. That's not something that she can say when she's me, like, oh, I want to be a wife and a mom and maybe a couple of years if we get like, that would be even weirder.
Okay, can I give some advice to women?
Oh.
But it's suggested. Like you can I want to write a draft and you can decide if we want to email it to all women.
We'll see how ready for marriage you are based on this advice.
My thing is this. No, because I've had this conversation. Like I have had the conversation where I had someone who's close with me was like, you're getting older. Like, are you going to have kids? Mm-hmm. Do you even want to have kids? And I think I've pendulum because I think I was like, for a little bit, I was like, I don't want to have kids until I'm like successful.
Right.
And I still feel that way. I'm like, as I'm building, I don't want to raise a child and not be around.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we travel a lot. Mm-hmm. And when a normal non-COVID year, we travel most weeks.
Yeah.
Pretty consistently, right? I think 2019, I was gone almost every week for 9 months. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I don't want to bring a child into that yet. Yeah. I want to bring a child into when things are a bit more stable. And so when she started suggesting that, I got really anxious because I was like, look, if that's what you want, then I don't know if that's me right now.
Right.
And so for for those kind of conversations, I think for me, when I was like, well, what do you want to do in life? Well, I want to really be a wife and a mother. And I've had that conversation before with people, but with my friend Mick, he's having that conversation now. And I think we were talking about it like on our first date, like I want people to be honest, like be real. Like that's the only desire you have. That's awesome. It's not a bad thing.
Right.
But I think sometimes, especially guys who are really driven, I think get nervous with that because they're like, some guys don't. I mean,
I think it's just the person.
I think sometimes I just get nervous. I'm like, I want you to have drive.
Right.
I want you to like be passionate about something else because like what happens when they're 18 and they go on and they do their own thing and you're going to have a huge void of loneliness and you're going to want to be their best friend and just their best friend. But I'm like, there should be other things that occupy your time and keep you happy.
Right.
And that makes me nervous. Does
I
that
think
make sense?
sometimes we put too much of an emphasis on what someone else's end goal is, right? As opposed to like who they are. Because I think when I'm looking at Jake, so like I had this conversation yesterday, like Jake, a musician is absolutely not. Maybe every girl in the world would want to date, you know, one of the boys from Laney, but it was my biggest night. Like marrying a musician was my absolute number one no. Never wanted to date.
Dated musicians.
Didn't want to date musicians. Didn't want to marry a musician. Never wanted to marry someone that was on tour. It was the absolute worst case scenario for me. But it came down to I wasn't so concerned about what he wanted to do in life because I was like, whatever he wants to do is what I want because I want to marry him.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you got there. You didn't start there. I'm talking.
No,
like,
I did start there.
You were like right away. You're like, this is my guy.
Well, he's like, I'm a drummer that lives with 3 people in a 1-bedroom apartment. I sleep on the floor. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, of course I was there at the beginning. Like,
people,
that's not something that's.
You see it now and you're like, oh, Laney plays stadiums, playing the Forum. But like,
I didn't marry that. You
I
didn't marry
broke boy
and I didn't marry the potential of that. I married the person, you know? I married the person regardless of if his band got big. I married the person regardless if he quit drumming the next day. I didn't even know if he was a good drummer. I'd never heard his band. I'd never heard him play, you know?
I think I had actually heard Laney before you had.
I remember us listening in the car, but I didn't, yeah.
And Paul was like, sick, let me show you this voice memo. And I was like, they're actually really good. And
So,
it was like IOSB before, I think it was IOSB with Paul on like a little cheap keyboard.
Yeah, I remember you and I listened to it, but I didn't know who they were. Like I didn't know it was Jake.
Yeah.
And I didn't know after I met him that was him either.
I don't even think Jake was here yet.
No, he wasn't.
I think he was like
town.
moving all this stuff. Okay, so.
Did you hear what I said?
You said marry the broke boy even if he broke.
That's not what I said.
You said you decide to marry him based on.
Who he is.
Because
people's life path changes too much for you to marry someone's ambition.
But a lot of women, not in a bad way, but I know this because my girlfriends would say like, I'm not gonna date someone unless they're like financially stable, can take care of both of us.
Right.
So you broke that rule.
And I think that is what sometimes leads to the end of a marriage is when you're marrying some sense of stability, but people are meant to ebb and flow.
Yeah.
You're not marrying stability. Like you are marrying a person whose passions change, whose financial status change, whose jobs change. Like, and if anything, people are realizing that now. I see you wanting to talk.
No.
I'm trying to go faster.
I know this is a really good conversation, I think.
No, I think with COVID, it's like people are realizing that they maybe married the idea of stability or the idea of a person as opposed to the character of a person, because the character of a person stays the same when you lose your job. And when you marry that, it's, like Jake doesn't make a salary. He makes money here and there, when they tour, and he hasn't toured in almost 2 years.
So please buy Laney merch, please. This is
so
ad.
I didn't marry, obviously I didn't marry someone who, at that point, he didn't make any money. I was definitely the sugar mama for a long time.
For
sure. But like, that's not what I married. So when he doesn't make any money, my relationship to him doesn't change. So I didn't marry that.
So you paid for dates?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. I'm not saying do that. That is do not do that.
I would say that you're actually a really good judge of character, and also you saw a lot of potential in him.
Yes, and I would say that was also my downfall.
Also,
seeing potential in guys that didn't have any.
Oh, dang.
So that was both of the. Sorry,
the booth is going off. You better add some of that sound, Austin. Okay, so one question I have is this.
So I just want to say that it was both my downfall and my success was the same thing, seeing potential in people.
Okay.
So I don't want people to be like, oh, I think he's gonna be amazing. Like,
Dad and I were nervous.
Okay.
With him.
Yes, totally.
Because it wasn't all, but this is the thing about Jake too, is he had already played in successful bands. Like he already had a job. Like he was a drummer. Like he
could
was touring.
be. Yeah.
Like if he didn't want to be in the band and start from scratch and build, it was like a startup company. If he didn't want to start up, he could have been on tour.
Right.
All of the boys.
Yeah.
They're all talented. I mean, Paul was modeling at that time, I think, right? Like,
yeah.
He was the guy, everyone was multi-talented. So, and then everyone decided to be broke boys.
Together.
So now this is my question, I guess, is like, so I'm a lot of young women want a guy who's financially stable. And you're someone who's very stable, and I'm someone who's been less stable.
Mm-hmm.
But you married the more unstable situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm striving to be more stable to be better situation. Be a better situation. So is there like
I married an unstable financial situation, not an unstable person.
Okay, so I get what you're saying now to me.
Like I married a stable person who was taking a financial risk.
So do you think sometimes financial stability is a mask for unstable personalities?
I think 100% of the time it is, especially in dating, especially guys that are like, I want everything to be set before marriage. I'm like, that is an amazing excuse to not get married.
I think I come from like having the fear that we were raised with a dad who was incredible. Mm-hmm. We love our dad. We love our mom.
Yeah.
But mom held it down. Mm-hmm. Mom was single mom for a long time because dad was legitimately traveling 45 weeks a year.
Yeah.
From Monday to Saturday, speak Sunday, grab breakfast together Monday, go back on tour, right? Like, was that it? Pretty much, right?
Yeah.
We saw him a lot when he was in town. He would always make us hang out. We'd always hang out. He was so good about it when he was here, but he was gone a lot. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be that. And it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous because sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be that for the kid I bring into the world someday. And I think that's also a lot of the fear of my commitment sometimes because I'm like, that seems to be my trajectory. Like 2019, if COVID didn't happen, 2020, if COVID didn't happen, probably would have been.
Right. And what's the problem with that?
Maybe it's my childhood insecurities of like, I don't want my child to not have me around.
Right. And you love your dad.
I love my dad.
So what's the problem?
Dad was good at being around when he was here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to be that good at it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you just figure it out. That's the thing. Like, I don't know. You're never ready. I don't think I'm ready to be a mom. Okay. So
can you speak to that? Like you were never ready. How old are you now?
29.
Okay. Happy birthday. Your birthday was in February.
Thank you. It's August.
You're 29. You're 29. Speak to never being ready. You're never ready. What does that mean?
I mean, I don't think that I think marriage was different because I do think that I felt confident.
You felt very ready to be married.
I didn't feel ready to be married. I felt ready to be married to Jake. Because to me, it wasn't worth just being married. You know, I could have married anyone. Like I could have married, well, other than the fact that they all broke up with me, I could have married any of those guys.
You guys went on your honeymoon and then what, was it 2 days later he left for tour?
Like, yeah. Right when we got back, yeah.
And it was gone for how long?
I don't know. A year?
A year.
Or the rest of the year.
The rest of the year.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
How do you survive space? Well, speak to never being ready.
I know.
I have so many guys who want to get married when they're older because that's an LA culture thing. Guys get married when they're older.
I just think when you those people that like date the girl for 5 years, they break up, then the next person they marry, they get married in 6 months.
What was your longest relationship before Jake? No, I want to lead into this.
But every time I try to answer that question, you ask me different questions.
Keep going. Sorry, keep going.
What was your question?
We all know the guy who dates the girl for 5 years and then they break up.
I'm just saying it matters who it is. You know, like I think people get mad like, oh, he married the next girl that he met. But at the end of the day, it's like if the next girl was worth him marrying, then he did it.
Do you think sometimes they remorse, like guys or girls also like remorse by like they were in a relationship for 5 years. So then the next thing that comes that's good or decent, they marry because it's like, well, that last one
Maybe.
didn't work. So boom, I'm gonna.
Surely. They like, it's more of a rebound situation, you
Yeah.
know, like, especially if the other person won't marry them,
Yeah.
you know, if it's more of a situation like that. But I do think a lot of times, like, we call it a rebound when really it was just like,
An alley-oop.
it was just like the right thing. You know, we don't like being the bad guy in someone else's story.
Yeah.
So we don't like the idea that someone could love someone else more than they loved us.
Yeah.
So we call it a rebound, or we call it a this or that, when sometimes like maybe they just met someone better.
I'm boot camp. Like if you survived it, you become something. You become a Navy SEAL, and now you're conquering the world.
Yeah, I mean, you could have married a lot of girls that
Yeah, maybe.
that were great, you know, and like had a good life. Maybe
Yeah.
not the best life that
No.
you want.
No.
But that's the thing. It's like there has to be.
I mean, I was engaged once.
Yeah,
We don't talk about it.
We don't, and I'm really, really, really,
What?
if I'm allowed to say it, like
Yeah.
grateful that you didn't.
For her and for me.
For you,
For me. Yeah.
she would have had a really, really good life with you
Oh, thank you for saying that.
because you're amazing.
Thank
You, however, would not have had
A great life together.
no.
No. But also, I think a lot of people like
And I got her ring.
You got her ring. I know. This is the most savage story. This is a savage story. If you get engaged and you break up,
Give your
get that thing back. I had like a CIA undercover mission.
No, you gave it to me.
No, I'm saying how I got it back.
Oh.
Because I got my friend hired. They were working together. And I was like, hey, have you seen the ring? And he's like, yeah, it's in a drawer. And I was like, I'm going to hit her up, but somebody doesn't hit me back. But I need that ring back. And he just got the ring and he gave it to me. And I was like, hey, by the way, like I asked for a few things back from my guy and like he brought the ring. Oh, I thought like that would be a conversation. And I was like, no, we're having it right now. I got the ring back. Selfie with the ring back. But here, I can talk about it jokingly now because one, I have friends who've been married who aren't married anymore. I have friends who got married young and you know, ended up in it not together. And divorce is such a tough word, especially in the church, in religion, right? And I don't like divorce, but I also don't see that in my friends who have gone through it. I'm like, man, to men and women, I'm like, it doesn't change the way I see you.
Yeah.
And I don't think it changes the way God sees them.
Mm-hmm.
I think if anything, they've gone through something really hard.
Yeah.
And they're better for it at the end. But I know that it comes with a lot. Because I know even being engaged for 5 years, it hung over my head.
Yeah. It really did.
It was something that other people hung over my head. Well, you've been engaged before.
Yeah.
I had girls like, well, you've been engaged. So it's like, this won't be the first time for you.
Yeah. Like you had been divorced.
Like I'd been divorced. And I'm like, well, I was only engaged for like 3 weeks, but like I learned very quickly that I needed to get out. But at the same time, and I'm not making fun of her. I'm just like, it was a part of my life.
Yeah.
But I do think, how do people process those moments in their lives where they feel like they've messed up so badly? Maybe they're in the 5-year relationship. Maybe they've been engaged and then disengaged. Or maybe they've been married and divorced. Or maybe they just dated the wrong people and they're in a single season. Or maybe they're in a marriage and they're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you process the bad moments to end in like a good space mentally? Like, how do you process being away from each other, coming back together? How do you process the hard moments?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because I think it's different in all those situations.
Yeah.
Like I think,
do you have like one or two things that you
figuring
do?
out stuff in interrelationally, like with another person?
Yeah.
It's like I was sort of always, especially the way that you and I relate to each other. There's a lot of like me against you.
Okay.
No, I'm just being honest.
Okay.
Maybe people don't know that about you and I.
What?
You know, like
that we fight so much.
And a lot of times it's like, no, like my position, like we both are so
No.
convicted.
Say your position. If this goes too far, we'll cut it.
No. I'm just saying, like sometimes I think I'm so right, and you think you're so right, and so we are.
What do you mean? I know
we
I'm
are exactly. There it is. Like it's.
But you're the same way though.
It is me against you. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying equally. I'm not trying to fight with you.
Girl.
I'm taking it on myself as much as I'm saying it about you. We're both. It is me against you, and so it's like if people, and even just as brother and sister, like not even just in a marriage, but
Yeah.
this applies.
Yeah.
Me going into my relationship with Jake is he's not like that. He's
No.
never been like that. His family's not like that. Their arguments aren't like that. I mean, I don't know if he's ever argued with a person a day in his life other than me because I just prod him, but like it isn't me against you, you know? And I think it's just like conflict in general, sibling conflict, family conflict, relational conflict, friendship conflict. It's like, it doesn't have to be me against you.
It doesn't have to be win-lose.
That is not the only way to fight.
Okay. How can one or two people fight better together?
Your friends.
How do you fight to win the person versus win the argument?
Well, I think that's a great test of whether or not you're ready to be married.
Okay.
Or to be in a relationship of any capacity. Is if you are willing to, like, you know, dad's talk, like lose to win.
Is it okay to fight?
Yes.
Do you ever get loud when you fight?
No.
So you're not okay to yell?
I don't personally think so. Because we grew up in we have a Latin and an Irish woman.
It was loud.
It's loud.
It was loud.
And to me, that's not, and I had to unlearn that behavior, you know, because like and not even like loud, but like passionate.
Yeah, because that's something that like I've dated people who are like, have come from like the most soft-spoken families, and they're like, when I'm intense, they're like, you're screaming.
Yeah.
And it happened actually at a point where I was like super passionate. It wasn't even against them. It was it was for them.
Right.
And they're like, you're yelling at me. And then I told you this, someone started, like some couple in some apartment building down the, like literally one block over, like not block, but like one apartment building over, started screaming at each other. Like it was bad.
Yeah.
I ran over to see if it was okay. And then I realized it was her that was mad at the other guy. And I was like, no, that's yelling.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm being intense. But how do you manage that? Like you told me something, you're like, I want you to get to a place where you never want to ever be mad at that person or be
well, yeah, because I'd never experienced that with anyone but Jake. Like I realized like in conflict with him, I never wanted to hurt him.
Right.
So like my reaction towards conflict and my anger just took a back seat. You know, like it was like, okay, I'm mad at you.
I'm go on walks.
I mean, I would say like I just bite my tongue a lot because I know, like I learned really young that if I speak freely, just personally, this is totally like personal thing. If I speak freely, I end up regretting a lot of the things that I say. And so I made a commitment to myself as a teenager that I never want to lay down and replay what I said at night because I don't want to be like disappointed in myself. Because I overthink things, because I replay things in my head, and I just thought, what a horrible way to live. That every night I would go to bed and replay all of these stupid things that I said, even if I didn't mean them, even if no one took offense to them. I didn't like that. I
spent so much of my life apologizing.
So I decided, just shut your mouth. You know, like I was like, and I took a long time of like becoming way more quiet.
But you've never been a reactor.
And that's because I had to teach myself to not.
Quiet. Like not quiet. Like you speak your mind and you like will be intense and you'll fight back. You definitely don't like let people walk over you.
No.
But you've always been like a quieter. Like don't really get like you get mad, you can see it, but you don't really react in anger. You might respond, but you don't react. It's like a difference. There's a difference.
And I also like to choose my words, you know. So I like to speak for it to matter. And especially in conflict, I like to speak and it to matter.
Yeah.
And I like for it to speak and it to go somewhere. So for me, it was like, it's always, how do I, you know, there are people like you that really just make it flow out of me because we're comfortable, you know, because you're my brother. It's a different relationship. But with Jake, it is like, and that's what I want for you is like, I want you to have to think before you speak. Because I think that's a real test of like loving someone and wanting to protect them.
Because I agree. And I'm really grateful. And I think that's a clip right there. I think, I mean, we can talk about our relationship. Because I think, you know, It's our relationship's like biblical.
Are you okay?
It's biblical.
What do you
I
mean?
had to
Like it's
restart my
savage?
computer.
You froze.
It's like it's Cain and Abel, but we're both alive.
Oh.
And a lot of it, I think a lot of how great Mosaic is, obviously it's built so much on our dad's communication and your music, your worship. But a lot of it has come from like, I think the friction of the moments. And I think there was one conference where I decided that I was no longer going to have fights with anyone. And I remember Dad's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just like, I felt like I've done as much work as I possibly can." Haven Wheats was running the conference. It was like the second year. Oh no, it was the third year. She had run it for the first two. And then she had come in and like handed all of her notes and all of her things. She's like one of your childhood best friends. And was like, "Your turn." I think you went to Dad. Because I went to, because Dad came to me and was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I just decided like, there is nothing left I can do. Like I've just, everything else is like Tez's team, your team,
Right.
like production team. I have to just show up." And he's like, "Yeah, because Mariah just like hasn't seen you melt down at all this conference, and like was like wondering like, where's Aaron? Is he like showing up? Like, does he even care about this thing?" But how do you get to a place where, like me and you, like we've had lots of situations where it's felt like it's either your way or my way, and for the most part, a lot of times it is. We become a lot of the domineering factor of like choices and how we go do things, and then Dad will either choose a child and sacrifice the other child, or he'll just choose neither, or he'll go and do his own thing, and then we're both mad. But in our relationships, how do you think that helped to have us work together, or do you think it was just way too hard? Like, would you do the last 5 years again?
That's a complicated question.
It's fine. I've been asking myself this because I'm taking August off.
Right.
And
to be honest, like no.
Yeah, I would say no too.
And this is
I would
why
rewrite my character.
I think a lot of times, well, one, I would say in general, like you and I, we don't pretend like we haven't, like, that we've come out of this unscathed.
Yes.
You know, like I think like pastors' kids or pastors in general, you know, anyone in ministry, it's like we just talk about like the people that were like burned as children, like pastors' kids that are like, "Oh, I hate my dad."
Yeah.
When it's like, we love our dad.
Love him.
But there's like an emotional and spiritual toll that it took on him that shook off on us.
Yes.
You know? And so it's like, it is just part of it. It's a permanent hurt that came from just like being here. You know?
One way that I explain like maybe some of the trauma or like the side effects, I don't really like the word trauma, but the side effects that happen from like working in church or your parents that work in church is that, you know, it's like, it's one thing to have a dad who's like a CEO or, you know, a general manager or like a CEO of a company. But like at the end of the day, what the bottom line, he has to make money for that company. If he doesn't, he's gone. If he does, he's good. Yeah. And it might be like hellish at times, but it sits on a budget line for the most part, right? For pastors, so much of it is emotional. So much of it is how people feel about them in that moment. And so it takes, and then anything that you connect with God becomes complicated. Yeah. Right? Because there becomes this like overwhelming sense of, well, if people hate me, does God hate me? Right? And so processing that as a young person, it seems ridiculous now as an adult, but processing that as a young person is difficult. Yeah. So me and you are Cain and Abel years. Yeah. How did we survive them?
Well, you asked me, would I do it again? And I was going to say no, because it's not worth, like, this is like a conversation I've had with Dad a lot lately. It's not worth it to me to lose everything that I love. Like,
say it.
You. I feel like a lot of we've lost a lot of years, you and I. Yeah. Because of this. Yeah. You know, and I think church is absolutely worth it. I think like the mission of what we do is worth it. I don't think that we're so neat, like so integral. Like I don't think, like I know God can use other people.
Yes.
So to me, it's like a lot of times I'm like, let God use other people. It's not worth it to lose this. And I feel like a lot of what God has given us through this process is a family, because I think there were so many years where we had all individually been through so much pain that we weren't together, you know? And so like, and for years we didn't talk, and like, you know, we've gone through those seasons of like,
and it was almost like a marriage in this way. Like you saw each other all the time, and you talked. You said, "Hi, it's good to see you. How you doing?" Hugs, but there was nothing deep. But there was a lot of deep pain, but not necessarily deep like uplifting.
Right.
There wasn't like both sides. Right. It was just hard. It was just hard, and then there wasn't the good stuff. It was just the hard stuff. And then we'd go on a vacation, or we'd go on a trip, and we were good family. Like we would pull together, or we do a conference, or you do a record, and it was like that odd thing of like we were dependent on each other situationally. I felt like, right? Like there was moments where there was really good times, and then it would go back to being bad, and a lot of it was my fault. But I do think the only way it would have been of both of ours would be that we're both intense, and we both know what we want, and we both have like a pretty decently clear vision what we want.
But it's the opposite route.
What do you mean?
A lot of times we want the same thing.
We just go about it different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as opposite as you could.
Like how so? If you could summarize it.
My measure of success is how many people we took. You know, like my measure of success is like.
Unpack that a little bit.
Including people and developing people.
Yeah.
And loving people. Not to say that yours isn't, but your measure of success is, and like getting there on the way.
You don't have to protect me.
No. I'm not protecting you.
I can always cut this out.
I'm not protecting you.
I'm kidding. Kind of. What?
Kind of. But getting to the same goal, but it's just a different. It's a different route that you don't necessarily.
Explain it.
Your route is get to the goal.
Get to the goal.
Without anyone.
No.
Without
everyone.
And also like a lot of times you have to go back and clean up things. Not that I don't, but you always do.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, like I don't always have to, but because to me it's like processing, and it's not.
You're good. Keep going.
I'm just thinking. I'm not trying to protect you. Right. I'm also trying to be kind. Protecting, like, it's not the same thing. I'm trying to be kind.
You don't have to be kind. Be brutal. It's fine.
Give me both.
I'll overdub your voice and be like.
No, I think it's just. I think also you think that my processes take a lot longer than they do.
They're slow.
They're not always slow.
But they're slower.
They're not. You see them as slow. You know, like to me, I'm like, I'd rather get there efficiently and make sure that everyone's on board so that I don't have to go back and clean things up when you're like, we're just going to go straight there and we'll deal with it all afterwards, when it ends up just taking the same amount of time.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say I get there faster and less efficiently. And you would get there slower but more effectively.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And slower not being the emphasis. That's just the speed caliber. You get there effectively. That's probably the emphasis with less people mad at you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get mad at me.
But I also get there with stronger people at the end. Like I will develop more people at the end.
We can go pound for pound our leaders.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Yo, anyone in Venice still live in LA?
Yeah.
I mean
okay,
like
you're
this.
making me mad, so let's just talk about something else.
I'm not trying to make you mad.
Yes, you are.
I promise you. I was just trying to mess it. I was just playing with you.
You literally are. You're literally trying to make me mad.
I promise you.
I'm getting hot, so we should change the subject.
Okay. One thing I have learned from you, and I've learned many things from you, is that I think I learned a lot doing Venice, because Venice was kind of the shot that I had at kind of starting over and doing things better.
Yeah.
And having more fun. And I felt like I was able to start my own thing, be close to family, but still be far enough away.
Yeah.
And it was small enough people where it was so small compared to Hollywood.
Yeah.
I had, the amount of one service at the end.
But you had entirely volunteers. So everyone was like all in.
No one worked for us. Yeah. But you had a big team because you had a huge campus. Your team was not not in ratio the right size of a team it needed for as big as the campus was. You're still tiny, scale wise.
Now you're trying to be.
No, I'm really not. No, because you look at you had like 3,000 people here, and you had
it's true
12 staff, right? And then I had 2 staff or 3, maybe 2.5 staff for 400 people, 500 people at the end. And so it wasn't. Scale wise, like it wasn't equal.
Yeah.
Normally for that many people, you would have 30 staff for you, And so here's my thing. I've learned a lot on how to do things. One, you have to have more fun, and you're really good at having fun. You work really hard. You're really good at being efficient with your time. You set a schedule. Like if you're writing music, you write music from 9 a.m. You wake everyone up, because I'm usually at the coffee shop wherever you guys are writing at like 7, and your team is like Brooke looking a hot mess in her Uggs. I'm kidding.
In her Uggs, yes.
In her Uggs, for sure. Like, oh my gosh, I'm reading my book for an hour and then we got to go to work. But you guys work really hard. And then I'm more like work and play, like work all of the time, but it's not as efficient, but you're kind of always on.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't have as much fun before. I would grind them.
Yeah.
And that was one because I was afraid of failing. And you're naturally talented. You can sing. I necessarily couldn't design back then. I had needed other people.
Well, I need other people. Want me to sing a cappella?
And people would still show up.
No.
A joke I often have and remind people is that if you and Dad went to a field and I was like, if we turn off all the lights and it was just you and Dad and he spoke and you sang a little bit, thousands of people would still show up. But if we miss a graphic, it's not going to affect. But we do it because it's important.
Yeah.
Because it helps people and it helps you guys move people in a direction.
Also, no one wants to go to a field.
Also, if you can't find the restrooms, you can't use it.
Sounds terrible.
No, but like we have like a more practical function, So anyways, with that said, I think we've talked about relationships. We got a little bit of background on you and Jake. Talked about how is it, do you love being a mother?
I do.
Do you miss your baby when you're at work?
I don't.
Oh.
What? I'll see you later.
See you later?
Yeah.
Do you think some moms have a hard time letting go?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
What do you mean?
We're really going for it right now.
But I have more dating questions, but we've been talking for a long time.
Ask dating questions.
So how long should you date before you get married?
2 weeks, yeah.
Tess, was that Tess in there? Yeah, that was Tess. You're welcome.
I don't know that there's a... Joe says something that's great. You should go through every season together. And I think sometimes seasons aren't... I think he means literal seasons, like winter, spring, summer, and fall. You know, like all of it.
Well, that's because his wife almost got deported.
Yeah, they did it for a long time. But I think it's a good thing. Like, I think seasons are even more than just the full year. Like, you should go through something hard together. You should go through the carefree time. You should go through something, stressful. Like, you should know what it's like to be around when you're at work, when they're at work. You should be going through all of what life could potentially throw at you, because you will go through that,
Okay, I went on a date one time.
Okay.
I was hanging out with a girl one time. No, I'm giving you
No, I can't wait to hear this.
Okay. and they asked me, they were like, are you my man friend, or are we buddies, or are we like actually like hanging out? Like, are we going on dates? And I'm confused. And like when they don't pay for anything,
Yes.
like you're not my mother
Oh, this is gonna be
or
good.
my sister.
Yeah.
So like it's a date. I picked you up, I planned it. I made a reservation, I paid for it.
And when you asked them out, did you say, will you go on a date with me?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Oh, I said, would you like to go to dinner with me on this night at this time?
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that appropriate? Or do you have to say date?
No, I think that's appropriate. That's a date.
To me, that's a date.
Yeah, but you're saying defining the relationship.
No, you're right. So then she asked me, are you my man friend?
My man friend?
It was funny in the context.
Okay.
Are you my buddy? Or do you like me?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I wouldn't, like, the same way I wouldn't like eat a meal I don't enjoy. Like, I don't eat food I don't like.
Yeah.
Like, life's too short to drink cold coffee unless it's actually cold brew.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't even like cold brew. So
No.
life's too short to drink cold coffee. We're a Salvadorian. We drink hot coffee in the summer. And life's too short to spend time with people you don't really like.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay.
So you're saying, is that a reason to not?
No. But then I was like, it seems like you have some figuring out to do, because like, I like you. Of course I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then
sounds like you're avoiding being someone's boyfriend, honestly.
No, it's not true. Because then I'm like, okay, so like, I'm getting to the end. Will you let me get to the end?
Listening.
You keep making me anxious.
I'm just reacting. I'm expressive.
Okay, so then we kissed, but we're not gonna talk about that.
Okay, well, we did.
This is also a throwback. This is a throwback. This is not currently
2 weeks ago?
No. This is not currently happening.
Okay.
This is pre-meltdown.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I'm going, okay. So I like you. We're moving forward. Yep. But then I think they were worried if they liked me, because then they'd send me a text. They're like, I don't get that anxious feeling when I'm around you. And so I'm like, that's one of the worst things anyone's like the excited, anxious feeling.
Okay.
Like butterflies. I think that's butterflies.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, okay, I guess I don't know if I do either, but I'm like, I like hanging out with you.
Yeah.
So, and then they're like, I guess it grows. And then I'm like, well, I'm confused. I think some girls just want an entertainer to like take them on adventures.
Okay.
I'm not that guy.
Right?
Take yourself on an adventure.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely, but I would say that
what do you do in that situation?
both men and women, since you're only speaking for women, I will also only speak for men.
Oh, I'm saying, because my response was,
answering your question.
It's settled. If you don't get excited, we don't need to keep hanging out.
Right. I would say people don't leave room to like, there are a lot of women and a lot of men, I'd say more men than women, to be honest, that feel like they've just seen too many movies or read too many Cosmos. Like
that are like what?
That are like, this is the way that every love story has to start, or this is the way every date needs to go, or this is the way I need to feel every time.
Yes.
Like, no, it's not real. Like the first time I hung out with Jake was nice. Second time I left and I said, we'll probably never go out again.
Right.
Like it was that boring.
Oh.
You know, like I didn't get
nothing worse than I one time I almost Ubered this girl home one time because I was bored.
Well, yeah, it's like that's the thing is sometimes just the things you say.
I'm sorry. If she listens to this, she's a friend. She knows we're still friends. She knows what she did that night. So
you know what you did.
You know what you did.
I think that there's just somewhat of a, like, too much of an expectation, you know? Like, I think sometimes we don't just leave like, hey, that date wasn't great, but I like this. I like hanging out with this person, so maybe there's something there. You know, like, I think sometimes we don't discover things because we think, oh, I didn't have this fairy tale moment that I thought I was going to have. You know, some people will, and that's awesome. But some people don't, you know? Like, I thought for sure Jake and I would never go out again. And then the next time that we did, it was like the best thing ever, you know? And so had I stopped there.
Sometimes fairy tales only last an hour and 20 minutes.
It's true. It's true. There's an end.
Yeah.
And then you go back to real life, you know? Like, And
that's called Grey's Anatomy.
fairy
And
tales.
that's 12 years long.
Brooke's in there like, I love Grey's.
Thank you, Grey's. You paid my rent for 2 years.
Yeah.
It's true.
So yeah, I think there's just like, there's false expectations, which I think are tough because when it's a man being like, oh, well, that girl, like her legs weren't long enough or her, like.
I'm sitting there going, I'm reading this text going, I liked talking to you.
No, I know, but I'm saying
that
like,
wasn't enough
on her end. But also there's guys who like, it's like all of these things. You don't look like, this girl or this girl.
Okay.
And there's an unrealistic expectation when it's like, why not just like try to get to know a person? And if the spark's not there, go on another date. And I'm not saying date them until you love them because that won't always happen.
I guess my fear would be that, and my fear in that situation was, are you just trying to make a choice on whether you should date me or not? Because here's the thing. Then this gets played into our lives. We're like, pastor's son. Moms always love me. Like, genuinely, moms always love me.
That's true. They really always do.
It's really crazy. And except for that one, but we won't talk about that one. But moms always love me. So I was like, I called it. I was like, do you not want to like me because your mom loves me? Because of our family.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation?
I don't know.
Who
are you dating?
No, I mean,
who are these people?
You know this person, but I haven't told you.
But who are these people? Can you just find a girl who loves her family that like
she loves her family?
Okay, well,
It's just she doesn't love me.
There's problem number one.
My other question would be this. How many dates do you go on before it's a thing? Like before you have to be like when is it appropriate to talk about what you are and where you're at?
I don't know. I'm bad at that because it was always like with Jake and I was like our first date.
You guys were like,
is our anniversary. Like it was like the first date was like, oh, this is
it.
This is a thing. Like that. Okay. But I think a lot of times like when people don't want, like if you are like that person going out with another person would really bother me. I think that's a good time. Like I think also if you're like kissing all the time.
I'm not kissing you.
No, I'm answering your question. I'm not talking
but you gave me the look like when you kissing all the time, you hoe.
No. When you're like kissing all the time, like it's like what did Haven always used to say? Like, why buy the cow when you get the milk for free? Like what? Like don't like give someone everything like you're, right. Like acting like you're together and then expect them to ever commit to you. So there's part of it that it's like, yes, there is a natural progression of things. Like you shouldn't just date forever and say we're not putting a label on it because that's just someone getting out of committing to someone else. Like I don't ever buy that.
I've been in a relationship of 5 years. Do you realize that? I wouldn't even know which
on a technicality.
No, right, on a technicality. I'm like,
you haven't been someone's boyfriend in 5 years.
Who's the runner who smoked weed and then got banned from the Olympics? I'm like her. Been running for 5 years, but haven't been dating for 5 years. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I didn't smoke weed.
Is it a confessional now?
It is a confessional. So like how many dates?
I don't think you can put an amount of dates.
How many dates?
I'm not putting a number on it.
Brooke, 2?
2?
So you got to be boyfriend and girlfriend after 2 dates. Says the girl who said no to all dates.
I'm just saying, don't let someone audition you to be their boyfriend or girlfriend. They can date you, but don't audition you.
Yeah, that's good.
But what if there's a series of callbacks?
There's no callbacks.
What if this is a Spielberg movie and we got to make sure there's chemistry testing, screen testing?
You know right away.
You know if
you want to kiss them.
That's true.
My standard for kissing is lower than my standard for a marriage.
Reassess.
That's the thing. It's like, but why? This is my question for you people.
Okay, ask.
Why does it feel like being like Being committed, saying like, you're my girlfriend, I'm your boyfriend. Why is that? It's like marriage.
I'd rather go from dinner to marriage.
No.
Than dinner, dating, engagement, marriage.
And that's why you're not married. Period.
You can ... this. It doesn't matter. I know why I'm not married. I live close to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know all of my stuff.
Mm-hmm. And?
I know why I'm not married. I'm trying to speak for the people.
No, but why does that feel like literally the end of the world to like be someone's boyfriend?
Well, because I think this is my thing.
Well, I know
men
why.
and women send mixed messages. You know why? Were you gonna let me tell you? You want to talk?
I just had a realization. I don't need to say it out loud.
No,
you don't need to say it out loud.
No, you're gonna say it about me.
I honestly forgot.
No, it's fine. No, you don't.
I honestly, no, I
no,
swear, I swear, I literally forgot.
No, say it.
That's.
Well, wait.
I'm being 100% honest.
Say it.
I can't remember anything for the life of me. I just had a baby. I actually forgot.
Is that a thing? You lose your memory when you have a baby?
Yeah.
I must have had a baby then.
Yeah. I birthed my memory straight on out of me.
Dang, I read a book about that. It was really weird. Dune's a lot about that, actually. It's kind of crazy.
Timothy Chalamet is in it.
I know. But
And
the book's really good. The book's really, really good.
Sorry.
Okay. So how many dates? 2 dates and then you got to be a girlfriend and boyfriend?
You think it's dates or you think it's like...
Months.
No.
What?
A vibe.
It's dates. Dates to me are intent.
Why do I feel like you're reading out like my flight the flight?
It does sound like we're at a terminal at LAX.
Dates are intent.
Flights DL
Pick up your wife at
236.
gate D3. If you need to check your luggage, we'll do it at the gate.
Extra baggage?
Extra baggage is $25.
Oversized baggage? $100.
Oh!
Get me out of here.
This X is oversized luggage.
Okay.
She said dating is intent. That's good.
Dating is intent.
Okay, but here's another question. What defines a date?
Is it weird if once you kiss, you don't kiss after every date?
No.
I don't think that's weird.
I think it's kind of weird.
Okay,
well,
Tess, Tess was on a,
I don't know.
Tess, your dating relationship was like HBO.
Tess is not the picture of healthy dating.
My thing is this. At what point, like, is it okay to just go on like a friendly date and like, hey, I want to go to dinner, let's go to dinner?
100%.
Because sometimes I get nervous, like, especially in the position that we're in, like, I get nervous, I can't just, someone goes, hey, you want to grab dinner? I'm like, I'm nervous because I don't want to lead you on.
I wish that you would do that because I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to say like, I want to get to know you more. I want to see if this is something, like, let's go hang out one-on-one. I think outside of that scenario, if you're like, I actually love you and I want to be a friend and I don't want to lead you on, I know there's nothing here, you have to call it out. Like I had a really good friend that we had that discussion after the first time we hung out. It was like, hey, this is not what this is.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know that. I will say it ended up like spiraling and now we don't talk.
But you kissed his face though, huh? You kissed his face a couple times. Yeah, that's okay.
Because he didn't actually mean what he said. But I totally was in that situation.
You're bright red right now.
Really? I'm so hot. It's so hot in here.
It's really cold. The AC's on us. Like,
I'm wearing a coat, so.
A coat.
A coat.
A coat of lies.
No, I will say it's like I was in that situation like, oh, this is awkward that a guy's like, hey, I don't want to lead you on. But after I left, I was like, wait, I actually really appreciate that. And like for however awkward it might be in the moment, it saves you a friendship, a lifetime of actual awkwardness because then the other person isn't like, oh, we're dating.
Right.
And then you actually get to like see like, oh, is this friend that I have, could this be something else? Because I think that's the best place to look for a partner is in the friendships that you have, And I think that's like the best thing about Brooke and Andy is that there was already a friendship there, like, and it took a second, but it's always going to take a second when you see someone as a friend to switch that perspective.
Oh,
like good. It's always going to take a second. So
do you feel like people are hard on themselves when they date?
Probably not hard enough on themselves. No, I think people are harder on the other person.
Because sometimes Oh, no. I mean, like, sometimes I feel like I talk to guys and I'm like, dude, like, you don't know yet. It's okay. You can figure it out. Like, you don't end things before things could get started.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, you're not doing anything wrong. Spending time with her, taking her to dinner. You're not like telling her you love her and you're gonna marry her. You're going like, hey, I'm getting to know you.
And I also like totally that makes total sense. I also think there's like, for some reason, girls don't think I can call someone out for like auditioning me. You know,
But
like
okay, no, because I don't want to hear. This is gonna be a movement. I don't want to hear this auditioning language other places. It is an audition both ways.
No.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because I know that girls look at cars that guys drive.
No, but
I know
those are not the girls you should be marrying.
No, whatever. There's girls in Mosaic that do that.
I don't.
to me, dating is willing to risk love. Auditioning is like, is this person going to fit perfectly into my life and I don't have to change and there's no risk.
See, I'm at the point now. Okay, bro, go. Okay, go. Bye. Okay, I'm at the point now where I'm like getting to an age where I feel like I don't want to change my entire life up.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes complicated. I'm not looking for the puzzle piece. I understand things will change. But I think when I was younger, I looked for an escape. I wanted someone who would get me out of this life because I was stressed out by it. And it brought on a lot of anxiety.
I think you understand that whoever you marry, things will change. But I do think you look for the right person, knowing that that person might not be the same person years from now. So I think you're looking for the exact person that you want.
Because I've had moments where I'm like, the person who I should have dated was right in front of me, but I didn't feel like they were strong enough to handle the life that we live.
Yeah, and it's just not your decision to make.
I know. And then I realized that's probably like bad.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we make decisions for the people we're dating that aren't ours to make. That's what I'm saying, going all the way back to what we were talking about before. It's like marrying what the person is saying as opposed to who they are. Like I was dating all these guys that I was like, they have potential when they were telling me exactly who they are and what they wanted.
And they were broke actors.
No, I never dated an actor.
You never did an actor?
No, thank God.
Never mind.
Like when at the beginning they say, I don't want to be in a relationship.
Oh, geez.
And then we end up in a relationship. And at the end, we break up because he didn't want to be in a relationship. I realized, no, he told me. It was my fault that I didn't hear him. You know, like, yes, there's a lot of like manipulation or this or that like he could have definitely owned. But I'm like, at the end of the day, like, no, he told me exactly.
Yeah.
Like he bookended it completely honestly. You know? And so it's like you have to marry the person because everything else changes. Everything in Jake and I's life has completely changed. You know, like his band was successful. He goes on tour for 9 months a year. Like we have a kid. We have all these responsibilities. Literally within the year of our first marriage, Dad got cancer. Like everything, the axis like completely shifts. Everything changes. Who I was, you know, I'm in the bathroom like on the floor sobbing my eyes out wasn't the person that he committed, you know, that he chose to marry however long before that, you know, like he didn't marry like someone who was confused about what she wanted. And now I'm always confused about, you know, like what I want my life path to be, you know, like he didn't marry all this stuff at that time. Yeah. He married me and all that stuff came with it. And not even that, we didn't even know that, you know? So it's like...
what I'm hearing you say is that healthy relationships often have a relation... So healthy relationships are reflected... Hold on. Let me phrase this better. Healthy relationships are oftentimes a reflection of how you handle and process change. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that I think I want to hit, because we've talked about this, like you know, knowing what you want to do, not knowing what you want to do, and we've pendulums. The pendulum has swung in both of our lives on what we want to do with career. Swings. Pendulum swings. Something swinging.
Some sort of pendulum.
And her name is Pendulum.
A pendulum.
No, but we've both had moments where we don't. We've both had moments. We've had long periods of time where we both don't want to work for Mosaic. And I think the latest season I've been in has been, I don't know if I want to, I know that it's a time where, like, I'm 33 and I want to run something. Yeah. But maybe it's a Simone Biles moment. I realize that I wouldn't pick me, I'd pick you. I would. No, different. If in this context, I would pick me because it's contained it small. I still had to like lean on you for you trained a lot of my guys. We were inside your structure musically, but I had a lot of freedom doing other fun stuff, you know? And it was a great, when that was happening, but now since COVID, my world has changed. It was production, it was kind of back in creative, and then it was kind of helping run certain aspects of church. You were pregnant, you were recording a record, you have a whole nother job on top of the job that you already have. So then, you know, it's like we're having that conversation of like, I'm taking August off and I don't know what I'm going to do when I come back.
Right.
But I do know that one thing I have learned in the last 5 or 6 years is 7 years that as the older brother, you win by acting like the younger brother. And not emotionally, because I think oftentimes it's emotionally the younger brother. But meaning that like, I think I would have been a stronger position to have lifted you up in moments where I think I brought you down or challenged you so hard that it became, or that I gridlocked certain situations or I made it impossible to move forward unless we went my way. And there was a lot of brutal moments. You know what I mean? There was a lot of war when it didn't need to be war. And some of it, like the cool thing about it is that God still did what he did.
Yeah.
Mosaic's strong, not because of me and you, but because so many other people. We still achieved really cool things. It wasn't all bad.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tough moments and a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of tears, a lot of frustration. But I do think that's something that I learned is that like, it isn't a kingship. It isn't this thing that is passed down from father to son. That strategically you're the better leader. Whether you're working for church or not, you just make better strategic decisions than I do. And the way you get there is always better. But I'm great for really hard moments when you have a group of people that are all willing to sacrifice themselves to get something done. You know what I mean? The hard task. And I think 7 years later, I've learned that I'm like, okay, it feels almost biblical. 7 years later, it's like the year that I need to like chill out and learn how to be the secondary person and the better wingman to you. Because leading really is, I think the tell of a great leader is, can you actually fill that second role?
True.
Right? Because actually, like the best leaders are not oftentimes the first role. They're the better face.
Yeah.
You know, like they might have the better voice, they might have the better, but we know a lot of speakers who are terrible leaders. You know what I mean? And that's not a call out. It's just like there's different giftings for different situations.
You don't have to be, which is something I always explain to Dad because he's amazing at both.
It's actually tougher for him to excel sometimes in certain aspects because he's so good at both. He still leads and speaks. Yeah. His life would have been way easier if he just spoke.
For sure. And we try to make him do that.
No, but he's too good at leading. Yeah. And we were a bit too young.
Yeah.
Probably. So anyways.
We're like too spastic.
I'll be your wingman any day.
I'll be your wingman. Flapping all over the place.
No, you the bird. Anyways, thanks for doing this podcast.
You got it, dude.
Okay. This is it. We're slow landing to the end. And that was one thing I did feel like is a great analogy. Is it an analogy or a metaphor, Brooke? When you talked about dating, I had this thought. Ewan, he's on our team at Mosaic. He's in our Seattle crew. He's the best. He told me that he's getting his pilot's license. And when you get your pilot's license, they teach you, they go up into the air, they turn the engine off, and you have to like look for a place to land.
And you do?
Literally, it's how you have to be able to land this plane with no engine running. And he's like, you'd be surprised. The first time you're like terrified. But he's like, you have so momentum and you're up so high that you can actually float for like 5 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
And find a nice plot of land or a road. And then right before you land, they turn the engine back on and you go back up.
Wow.
Kind of crazy. And they prepare you for like essentially a bad moment. And I was like, I think dating is a lot like that. That sometimes we turn the engine off and then we don't know how to land. That we just like let the plane crash. And it's like, maybe it's conversations, maybe it's an exit interview. I don't know exactly how to have. Yeah. But sometimes it's hard when feelings are involved, but like it feels sometimes like that. Like we get into these moments where the engine cuts off and we're like, we don't know how to land. So it's like, how do you practice having healthy relationships and healthy exits and stuff like that?
Yeah.
With that said, thank you so much. Will you come back on sometime?
Yeah.
You have listened to the Bad Ready podcast. We love you guys so much. We hope that you will rate and review this podcast. Thank you to every person who subscribes on the YouTube, subscribes on Apple, follows us on Spotify, checks out the Instagram Bad Ready podcast, and you can check out Mariah McManus Goss. Is your Instagram Mariah McManus? Mariah McManus Goss.
Mariah McManus.
Mariah McManus. But it's Mariah McManus Goss in the bio.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my legal name.
My legal name.
It's like that in the records.
See you guys later. Bye.